to the Red Leaf Guard, your home for Canadian soccer news and views. My name is Jacob, and today we're going to be recapping the round of 16 of the CONCACAF Champions Cup of 2026, as the second leg has ended for the round of 16. Who is moving on as Toluca moves on to the next round, moves to the quarterfinals as defeating San Diego FC. San Diego FC, my opinion, was probably the competitive team trying to move on since defeating Pumas, but they got a matchup that they couldn't defeat. As the first leg, they were the ones that they thought they were going to be the ones to move to the next round. But in the second leg, San Diego FC became scoreless as Toluca scores 4 goals, as the aggregate score becomes 3-6 Toluca. As Toluca will go to the quarterfinals to face probably LA Galaxy, which they're leading in aggregate against Mount Pleasant. Cruz Azul moves on to the quarterfinals in defeating Monterrey 4-3 in aggregate. Los Angeles FC defeats Alajuelense 3-2 in aggregate. Cruz Azul will be versing Los Angeles FC. As a shocker matchup was Nashville SC versing Inter Miami, as the first leg became a scoreless match, but the second leg goes to a final score of 1 apiece, but Nashville SC gets the away goal advantage that moves them to the quarterfinals. Club America defeats Philadelphia Union 2-1 in aggregate and will be facing Nashville SC. Will be probably a tough matchup for Nashville SC, but probably Nashville SC wants to be that competitive team to move to the semifinals. But Club America, again, they're a competitive team in this matchup. As Tigres FC Cincinnati leads in aggregate, trying to finish the final score of aggregate, but Vancouver Whitecaps versus Seattle Sounders, final score 5-1 in aggregate. Seattle Sounders will wait to see who will they be versing in the quarterfinals. Will it be FC Cincinnati or Tigres in the quarterfinals? As right now, sooner or later, will it be? But talking about the Vancouver Whitecaps matchup against Seattle Sounders, as all the teams in Canada are no longer in contention for the CONCACAF Champions Cup for 2026. So the Vancouver Whitecaps versus Seattle Sounders, I question what really happened for that matchup against the Seattle Sounders. As noticed, Starting the first leg, Seattle Sounders ends it in the first leg 3-0. And then later you look at the second leg, Seattle Sounders 2-1, the final score. Looks to see that Seattle Sounders really is this competitive team for the CONCACAF Champions Cup. As noticed, they were the team that has won once in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And probably we might see that happen again. As noticed, Vancouver Whitecaps ending it right here in the round of 16 looks at it saying, well, we still have the regular season for the 2026 to show the Whitecap fans we still want it to be the MLS Cup champs, or probably the Supporters Shield winners, or the Canadian Championship champs. So a lot to actually look at for the Vancouver Whitecaps coming in for the 2026 season in Major League Soccer. But right now, if you look at many of the Major League Soccer teams that got eliminated, you might think of Inter Miami right now. You think of them, there's still a competitive team coming in for Major League Soccer, but it's only on the Eastern Conference side. But a matchup against Inter Miami in the MLS Cup Finals with Vancouver Whitecaps, probably we might see that actually happen. But looking at Seattle Sounders, they could still be that competitive team to be in the MLS Cup Finals. Might be new teams, maybe LAFC coming in. Again, there's a lot of MLS teams in the Western Conference that we might look at saying it's right now early to predict which Western Conference team might make it, or we might see a new Eastern Conference team in the finals. As noticed, Inter Miami just got eliminated by Nashville SC. We might see right now Nashville SC being the MLS Cup Finals winners for maybe 2026. But again, we might see probably something new right now, but we might think of, hey, what about these other Canadian teams that were eliminated, like the Atletico Ottawa, Vancouver FC, and Forge FC that competed in the CONCACAF Champions Cup? What do we see them in the 2026 season? And that's really something that a lot of fans need to look at, saying, can Forge FC, Atletico Ottawa, Vancouver FC actually be competitive, maybe be in the playoffs for 2026? And a lot of fans, or maybe some, predict that Vancouver FC might not be in the playoffs for 2026. Maybe Atletico Ottawa might struggle in the 2026 season. Forge FC maybe be that team that could be eliminated in the playoffs or not even make it. But right now, these are something that some people might predict. I know Atletico Ottawa really wants to defend the North Star Cup and probably repeat it. Maybe be the first Canadian Premier League team to actually win the Canadian Championship. But it might be actually right now hard for them because, again, Toronto FC is going to be their first match in the first round. But if you look at other Canadian Premier League teams that are actually there, that could actually be in the semifinals or maybe to the finals, there's always Inter Toronto FC, there's always Forge FC. I think that we might see those teams have a possibility to make the semifinals at that point. But again, Halifax Wanderers, again, they are also a competitive team coming in. And if you look at FC Supra de Quebec, having their debut in the Canadian Championship, really questions how are they going to be that competitive coming in for their first season. And again, you're going to be versing the Woodbridge Strikers in the first round. They make that, if they make the next round, you're going to be possibility to actually verse Toronto FC or maybe Atletico Ottawa. So I really think that Toronto FC going to be making their next round of the Canadian Championship, if they pull it off against Atletico Ottawa, maybe we might see something new. Like, again, bring in that tradition of Ontario versus Quebec and actually bring in a big fan base. I think that's what we might see from FC Supra. I think that there's going to be, again, that maybe that FC Supra de Quebec could bring in a rival match against Toronto FC, but I think that a lot of people are going to be thinking FC Supra might have a different rival match, probably against Atletico Ottawa, maybe against Halifax Wanderers, or maybe Inter Toronto FC probably in the future for what we might see. But when we see the 2026 season for when it starts, we might see, actually, in my opinion, that 2026 might be actually a better season for the Canadian Premier League and also for the Canadian Championship. I think it might bring in a lot of fans to actually watch the championship. But again, when I think about what's going to be the finals, I still think that the Canadian Championship might be different. We might have a new finals matchup. And I still think about Vancouver Whitecaps might actually be versing Toronto FC in the finals. But this might be different for the finals. I think that my prediction still might be Vancouver Whitecaps winning it, but we might still see some fans still be on the side of the Vancouver Whitecaps, but we might think of Toronto FC of maybe making that upset, of ending the streak of the Whitecaps winning the Canadian Championship. But we have to wait until Toronto FC plays against Atletico Ottawa and how Vancouver Whitecaps plays against either Calgary FC or Pacific FC. And that's full time of the Red Leaf Part. You could follow us on X, Spotify, and YouTube. I'm your host, Jacob, subbing out.